Welcome back into the extended edition of the Georgia Vote Political Roundtable. Faith Jesse here, along with Stephen Lawson, Jake Orvis, and Crystal Dixon. Crystal, you are a reporter with Axios. One of the stories that we've been tracking, and you've been tracking as well lately, is this story of Mario Guevara. He's a journalist who was taken into ICE custody. Where does this case stand right now? And walk us through a little bit of why you think it has gotten so much national attention.
Well, a federal immigration judge granted him $7,500 bond, and so he's out. I believe he was housed at an immigration detention center in South Georgia, in Folkston, Georgia. So right now he has to go through that process of ICE, trying to deport him back to El Salvador, which is where he originally came from. His attorney argues that he was authorized to work in the country. He had been covering, Metro Atlanta. He had been a journalist in Metro Atlanta covering issues that are important to the Hispanic community for decades. And it was very surprising, to see a journalist arrested.
And he was taken into custody at an immigration protest, sort of anti-enforcement.
Yeah, right. And he was charged with, I guess, pedestrian in the roadway, unlawful assembly, as well as some other just kind of minor roadway kind of offenses. And, I think what's interesting is that the DeKalb County Solicitor General decided to drop those 3 charges. Mm-hmm. But what I also find interesting is that the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office actually decided to charge him in connection with an incident that happened a month before he was arrested in DeKalb County. The Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office said that he alleges that he interfered with an operation concerning the Sheriff's Office's, child trafficking operation. And so we've reached out to the Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office to sort of give us, to ask for more information regarding that, but we haven't heard anything else beyond that statement.
So this case is still working its way through the justice system, but there are political implications here too. Jake, let's start with you. You're a Democratic strategist. Immigration and immigration enforcement have been major issues for the Trump administration. Do you think this case is something that Democrats are going to be campaigning on?
I think they're definitely going to be talking about it. When it comes to immigration, at the end of the day, voters want the process to be fair, they want the process to be safe, and they want it to make sense. And right now, what we're seeing out of this administration is chaos. Nobody voted for that, including Republicans. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this in the conversation that Democrats are having coming into these next elections.
I think it's interesting, too, the fact that you have a journalist who was wearing a press vest who was arrested. It's caught on body camera video, so there's no question about it. But I mean, Stephen, you look at this, and I know, Jake, you said that Republicans are against it, but I'd argue that most Republicans are happy with what they see. Stephen, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, look, just because he has a media badge, I mean, if he's obstructing and if he's in the roadway after there were multiple warnings, I mean, that's against the wishes of the police officer. To Crystal's point, I know his attorney has alleged that he had the work visas. I've seen reporting that says that he was not here illegally and had been told that going back, I think, 10 years. So I think the process needs to play itself out. But again, I'll disagree with Jake a little bit. I think the chaos, a lot of the chaos is coming from the reaction from the left to a lot of these things that are going on. I think by and large, Americans agree, if you are in this country illegally, you should leave.
So you think that the chaos is coming from the reaction, but not people? A lot of people are saying, hey, it's like a surprise. You go to work, you go to church, and you're coming out getting arrested and getting thrown into it.
I think the majority of the chaos that is being caused right now is a reaction from the left. We saw what happened in California. I'm not saying that's all of it, but I think that's where the majority of the chaos is coming from.
And when you say chaos, do you mean demonstrations?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There may be some other folks who have a different take on that. I do want to give Jake a chance to give a Democratic response there. And then we should pivot in the time we have left, because July 1st is a big date on the Georgia political calendar. But Jake, quickly, for fairness, do you agree with Stephen's take on this?
I
didn't think you would, from the Democrats' perspective. Go ahead.
You saw it coming. I think a majority of Americans, including Republicans, they do not want to interfere with people who are in this country giving back to their communities. People, to your point, Faith, who are just getting out of church. I don't think people, including a vast majority of Republicans, support what support college kids getting whisked away in vans by unmarked groups of people on the street. That's chaos. That's not what people voted for.
I think one clear takeaway here is that this is an issue that was a focal point in the 2024 election. You can see the passion and the a little bit of divisiveness that comes out when you talk about it. This is not an issue that is going away.
And even Donald Trump saying, I believe it was an interview with Kristen Welker, hey, I campaigned on this. This is what people voted for, and it's playing out. So, I mean, I think that's a big argument for Republicans as well.
It's one of the reasons Donald Trump won. I mean, it is, because the polling consistently shows, again, as I said, that Americans agree that if you were here in this country illegally, you shouldn't be here anymore. And I think the president's taking, and again, going back, we saw millions of people come into this country illegally under former President Biden. I think what Donald Trump is trying to do is to right that wrong and to fix that situation.
And we know that the immigration issue has gone on beyond Biden, throughout Trump, even through the Obama years. So it's definitely a system that both Democrats and Republicans say needs to be fixed.
Yes.
The way to fix it is up in the air, right? Let's move on to July 1st. There's a lot of laws, 100 new laws that have taken effect here in Georgia. We want to touch on some of them. One that might not be popular with the kids, but is popular with some parents. These guys.
Take those away, everyone. Get
Nope,
them off
can't
the
have
list.
them. Sorry. No more cell phones in schools. Thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah,
Crystal,
go ahead,
yeah, please.
I was going to say the kids are finally going to see what going to school like in the 1990s was. No, I think this is a very interesting phenomenon. You're starting to see districts and teachers and even some parents sort of step up and say, okay, this is sort of hurting my kids' performance in the classroom, their attention span. What can we do to sort of make sure that doesn't become an issue when it comes to their grades down the road? And I think this is one of the issues or one of the options that that the school districts are taking. And so it'd be interesting to see what other options local school districts come up with over the next few years.
And this was a legislative effort that had pretty broad bipartisan support, didn't it, Stephen?
Yeah, it certainly did. And to Crystal's point, I think this does have a lot of support. As a parent, I'm a huge fan of it. A couple things, right? As we saw coming out of the pandemic, how much that hurt kids going back into the classroom. And I think when you added the cell phone onto that, we saw students just falling behind. And so I think this will be a huge boost. To Crystal's point, that I think will be really interesting. How do school districts across the state implement this? I've seen a number of schools say we're going to go to clear bags. I've seen some schools say, hey, it's in a box when you go into the room. So it'll be really interesting from that perspective.
Jake, you spent a lot of time working on the federal level with Congresswoman McBath, and one of the things we hear a lot, you hear from a lot of folks that federal politics get the bulk of the attention, but a lot of the laws that are passed at the municipal and at the state level have the real lion's share of impact on people's day-to-day lives. That's not to say that what the folks in Congress are doing is not important by any means, but is this kind of bill issue-specific, small and targeted, an example of sort of that effect playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people support this bill. I support this bill, which makes me feel old, right? Because I'm like, get those phones out of the classroom. But I think it's a great example of people working together and doing what they think is best for the kids.
I want to bring up something. We talked about one of the bills to codify IVF, which came, I think, largely because of the decision that was made in Alabama. Stephen, would you like to weigh in on that? As a conservative, it's a bill that also received bipartisan support.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a reaction from the Alabama ruling. This was a priority of the House Speaker, John Burns, to make sure that our state codifies those protections. We know what, just a life-changing impact that in vitro fertilization can have for so many families. And I think, Republicans in the General Assembly, and along with bipartisan support from Democrats, stood up and said, hey, we need to codify those protections.
And it's really just protecting the doctors from, hey, if there's an issue with that embryo, you're not going to go to jail, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little unfortunate that sometimes I feel like we're in these situations because of the heartbeat bill or because of the draconian legislation that's being passed by Republicans throughout the country. I mean, Donald Trump even at one point, was talking about IVF, and that made everybody concerned, and that is what caused everybody to make sure these protections are codified. But I certainly think it's good that they're codified. I just think sometimes it's our own doing as to why we got there.
We've got to wrap here. Last word to you, Crystal. Your big takeaways from this legislative session, and maybe even what you're looking for as we head into 2026. The floor is yours to wrap us up.
I was just surprised, just how quickly the sine die ended. It was very. I was at home before midnight, and I didn't expect to be at home before midnight. So, I think 2026 is Georgia. Who knows? I think Georgia is becoming one of those states where anything could happen, and we've seen, just about anything could happen. So,
And that's why we're so busy.
yeah, exactly.
It is Georgia. Who knows? Put that on a throw pillow somewhere.
Yeah.
Georgia, who knows?
Yeah.
The good news is we're always going to be here trying to unpack it and make sense of it. We thank all of you and our two newcomers on the panel. We hope to have you all back again
you.
soon. Thanks for watching us.